Good afternoon, gentlemen. I couldn't find a way to revert the camera back to my face multiple times, so you'll just have to look at the screen. So I'm going to go through the schedule really quick because I have the schedule here written out all on Sleeper, and wanted to do it because we do this every year. I dislike how Sleeper doesn't have the option to randomize weeks 10 to 14, and it really just reverts back to week one outcome, weeks 1 through 5. So what I have here is I have random.com or random.org. I'm going to randomize and then randomize it again and again. And as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all there. So teams 1 and 2 will play together, then 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10. That will be your week 10 matchup. And then I will cross-reference and make sure that there's no funny business and we don't have one matchup playing each other 3 times a year. All right, randomize. So week 10 will be John and Drost. Then we have Dan and Dupe. We have Frank and Mike. Jake versus Borelli. And Jared versus Jones. Perfect. Now, I'm going to randomize it again. Now we have Frank versus Jones. And let me look. Frank and Jones will... That works. So Frank versus Jones. We have Jared versus John. We have Dupe and Dan. But that is what was on week 10. So what we're going to do is we're going to do Dupe and Jake. And do Dan versus Borelli. And now we have Drost and Mike. All right, week 12. We have Frank and Jake. Sorry. Carmo, you got to get down. Someone wants to help. All right. Frank versus Jake. We have Mike versus Jones, which works. We have Drost versus John. Carmi, let's move on down. We have Borelli versus Jared. And we have Dupe versus Dan. But Dupe versus Dan is what we had in week 10. So we are going to do Dupe versus Frank. And we will have Dan versus Jake. What I did there was Frank versus Dupe, Dan versus Jake. That is that. All right, now let's get going for week 13. We have Dupe versus me. Carmi, you gotta get down, sweetheart. Jake versus Frank. And Borelli versus John. We have Drost versus Mike, which is the same as week 11. So we're going to have Drost versus Dan. And we're going to have Mike versus, let's do, because Mike versus Jones would be the same as week 12. So let's do Mike versus Drost and Dan versus Jones. Or wait, no, Drost versus Dan. Yeah, that's what we'll do. And for the last one for week 14, we have Jared versus, let's do this way, 1 and 10. Jared versus Mike. And we have, actually, yeah, no, that is fine because Drost and I don't play each other multiple times. So, okay, never mind. Jared versus Drost. Then we'll do Drost versus Dupe, which would work out. Then we have Borelli versus Jake, which is the same as week 10. So we're going to do Borelli and Frank, which works out. Borelli versus Frank. Then we have Jake and Dan, which works out. And John and Mike, which yeah, John and Mike, that works out, right? Yeah. Perfect. I will be putting this into Sleeper.